The sweet aroma of maple syrup wafted through the Watsons' white mansion. On this holiday morning, April Watson was lovingly making pancakes. Through the kitchen window, she could see the orderly streets of Winnetka, a Chicago suburb. The autumn morning's sun painted the well-maintained lawn golden. The two-story colonial-style house stood as one of the most elegant in this upscale neighborhood. "I've checked all your homework," April smiled at her 8-year-old son Michael, who was working on his math workbook at the dining table. The boy, who inherited his mother's brown eyes and gentle expression, nodded enthusiastically behind his glasses. "Thanks, Mom. This problem is really interesting. It's like computer programming, you can think about it logically." In the living room, James Watson was reading the newspaper. As a senior manager at an IT company, he rarely had weekends completely free from work. As an elite employee earning $150,000 annually, he lived constantly mindful of promotion opportunities. His smart suits and intellectual-looking glasses seemed to tell the story of his ambition and dedication to success. Recently, rumors had been circulating at work about him spending more time than necessary chatting with young female employees. April had established a solid reputation as a luxury real estate agent in the area. Her annual income of $80,000 demonstrated her dedication to her work. Many of her clients came through connections from her local church. A woman of deep faith, she had never missed a Sunday service. Her tasteful pastel clothing and neatly styled brown bob haircut reflected her professional integrity. In this safe neighborhood, Michael was growing up in a privileged educational environment. As a third grader at St. Mary's Elementary School, he consistently achieved excellent grades, especially in science experiments. During breaks, he was often seen enthusiastically explaining the fascination of programming to his classmates. Michael's birthday party a month ago was bustling with neighborhood friends and church members. Children played energetically in the garden while adults chatted pleasantly about church activities. That day, James gave his son the latest smartphone as a present, saying, "A future genius programmer needs this." Michael was a top student at school who loved science experiments and programming. Carol Brown from James's company also attended the party. The 32-year-old project manager, dressed in designer brands with perfect makeup, had built an impressive track record. Raised in a wealthy family, she struggled with infertility and had a personality that sought to control others through strong will and obsession. Her eyes seemed to hide deep desires as they followed Michael throughout the event. Recently, anxiety had been creeping into April's heart. Michael's health had declined, and he complained of headaches more frequently. James was coming home later more often, with the phrase, "dinner with important clients," repeated like a mantra. She instinctively felt something bad was about to happen. However, as a devoted mother and caring wife, she only thought about preserving her family's peaceful daily life. One day, April was making homemade chicken soup while occasionally glancing out the window. The garden trees were beginning to show their autumn colors, swaying in the cool breeze. Only birdsong broke the silence of the residential area. She could see Mrs. Peyton walking her dog beyond the white picket fence. On the windowsill above the sink, April's cherished houseplants were arranged. These were plants given to her by church friends after Sunday services. The green leaves sparkled in the morning light, creating a peaceful atmosphere. The kitchen was neatly organized with pie tins she used for baking apple pies every Sunday and jars of homemade jam. James had left early that morning, citing golf with clients. Recently, his weekend golf outings had increased, and he always left wearing new ties and suits. As April chopped onions, she reflected on her husband's recent behavior. His overtime work had increased, he was coming home later, and family time had definitely decreased. Even his cologne had changed to a different type. Amidst the savory aroma of vegetables, she felt a slight unease. Upstairs, Michael was playing with his new smartphone. The expensive gift from his father was meant to become his treasure. Occasionally, tapping sounds and app effects leaked from Michael's room. However, in recent days, these sounds had decreased. As the clock struck 10, April was tasting the soup, enjoying the quiet holiday morning. The chicken soup was full of Michael's favorite diced carrots and celery. Using her grandmother's recipe, the sound of her knife chopping ingredients created a pleasant rhythm. The living room clock chimed with its deep sound. This clock was a wedding gift from the church pastor. Suddenly, an unusual noise came from upstairs. Then, Michael's hurried footsteps came down the stairs. His footsteps, usually quiet, were unusually rushed today. The moment April turned around, her son threw his smartphone into the kitchen trash can. The impact sound against the plastic bin echoed through the quiet kitchen. "Michael, why did you do that?" In a voice mixed with surprise and worry, April rushed to her son. Michael's face was pale, lacking its usual vitality. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead, and his eyes behind his glasses trembled with anxiety. "Mom, this phone makes strange noises. When I use it, my head hurts." Michael's hands were cold and sweaty as he spoke in a trembling voice. The hands that usually held books and experimental equipment were now empty and shaking. "Strange noises. What kind of noises?" April approached her son, asking gently. Her maternal instinct told her something serious was lurking beneath the surface. A high-pitched sound, and it gets hot. Michael's voice trembled with anxiety. He pressed his forehead against his mother's hand, just as he used to do when he had a fever as a young child. April carefully retrieved the smartphone from the trash. The screen was cracked, with fine cracks spreading like a spider's web. The glossy surface of the expensive smartphone now displayed an eerie pattern. However, through the cracks, she noticed something abnormal that wouldn't be found in a regular smartphone. At the dining table, April began examining the smartphone more closely. In the light streaming onto the table, unnatural shadows emerged. There was a slight misalignment in the back cover, and wiring not found in factory products was visible. Then she discovered small electronic devices attached in places where they shouldn't be. These devices seemed to be embedded in the terminal like parasites. Her maternal instinct sounded an alarm. This wasn't just a manufacturing defect. Someone had intentionally planted these devices. April instinctively made Michael stand behind her. her son's small body pressed against her back. As she reached for the landline to call the police, her hand trembled slightly. At that moment, sudden darkness engulfed the room. It wasn't a tripped breaker. No external power lines had been cut. This was an intentional power outage. Michael's small scream echoed in the dark room. Then, footsteps from outside. They had a rhythm that couldn't be coincidental. The footsteps approached regularly, methodically. April held her son tightly. The morning light streaming through the windows was now their only ally. The landline receiver lay silent in her hand, like a useless relic. The security system lights had gone dark, and the whole house seemed to be holding its breath. In the kitchen where the chicken soup's aroma lingered, mother and son held their breath. The morning routine of soup making now felt like a distant past. The footsteps of someone approaching their house grew louder, tearing through the autumn stillness. Michael's small body trembled. April instinctively held her son tighter. In the darkness, countless thoughts raced through April's mind. The flashlight was in the kitchen drawer. The emergency cell phone was in the second-floor bedroom. And most importantly, her son's safety. She instinctively grabbed Michael's hand and headed toward the second floor through the darkness. Being careful not to make any noise, they climbed the stairs one step at a time. Michael's small hand trembled in his mother's grasp. The stairway window, usually bright with sunlight, now cast eerie shadows. "Mom, I'm scared," Michael whispered, his voice quivering. "It's okay. Mom will protect you," April answered, feigning strength. When they reached the second-floor hallway, she checked her cell phone. The "no service" display gripped her heart. Intentional signal jamming. This wasn't a coincidental power outage. Someone was methodically trying to corner them. Opening the master bedroom door, April quickly surveyed the room. Large closet, under the bed, bathroom. She was instinctively searching for hiding places. From outside, she could hear a car engine. Then, from the direction of the entrance, the sharp sound of breaking glass echoed. "Michael, get in the closet," April urged her son. "No matter what sounds you hear, don't come out until I call you." Just before the closet door closed, Michael's anxious eyes looked up at his mother. From downstairs came the sound of heels. Regular, calculated footsteps. Then, a familiar voice echoed throughout the house. "April. Where are you?" It was Carol Brown's voice. April's spine froze. James's colleague. The woman who had come to Michael's birthday party. The woman who had been the object of admiration with her perfect makeup and designer clothes. But now, her voice had a hint of madness. "It's useless to hide. I know this house's layout completely." Footsteps coming up the stairs. April held her breath. "James told me everything about you. Everything. The struggles with parenting, the marital problems." Carol's voice drew closer. "But don't worry. I'll solve everything." Suddenly, the master bedroom door was violently struck. April reflexively pressed her weight against it. "Open up." Carol's angry voice resonated. Give Michael to me. You're not fit to raise him. I've called the police. April forced out the words. It was a lie. But it was all she could think of. Liar. The doorknob shook violently. I've made sure all the phones are unusable. No one's coming to help. I'll raise Michael. Carol's screams continued. I've endured years of infertility treatment. But I don't need to wait anymore. If I have Michael. At that moment, sirens could be heard in the distance. Someone in the neighborhood had noticed something was wrong. Carol's movement stopped. April shouted, James has been deceiving you. Using Michael. Shut up. Carol's fist struck the door. James loves me. He promised that we could be a happy family, the three of us. The sirens grew closer. April listened to the sound with an almost prayer-like feeling. In the darkness, time seemed eternal. Then suddenly, a loud noise echoed from downstairs. Multiple footsteps running up the stairs. Mrs. April Watson. Are you all right? A police officer's voice called out. Here. April shouted. Second floor bedroom. In the hallway, police officers were restraining Carol. Her designer suit was disheveled, and her perfect makeup was streaked with tears. James. Carol mumbled in a hollow voice as the police led her away. You promised. The lights came back on. April opened the closet door and embraced her son. Michael's body was damp with cold sweat. It's okay, April whispered. We're safe now. The police had also contacted James. However, he wasn't at the golf course. Word came that he had been found at a meeting place with Carol. Mother and son held each other tightly. Outside the window, the autumn sunlight still shone gently. However, their world had changed dramatically. April sensed that this wasn't the end, but the beginning. She would have to walk forward, protecting her son, toward the truth that would be revealed and the new life that lay beyond. While police officers gathered evidence, took photographs, and prepared reports, April remained still, holding her son. The warmth of Michael's small body gave her courage to face the difficulties ahead. The Chicago Police Department interrogation room was filled with the impersonal light of fluorescent bulbs. 12 hours after the incident, in the dead of night, April sat in a chair with an exhausted expression. In the next room, Michael was being watched over by a kind female officer while drinking warm cocoa. Mrs. Watson, let me confirm once more, Detective Johnson began in a quiet voice. When did you first examine the smartphone? April closed her eyes, remembering the morning's events. Right after my son, after Michael threw it in the trash can. The screen was cracked, and through the gaps, I could see unfamiliar wiring. The smartphone, seized as evidence, was now undergoing detailed analysis in the police laboratory. Results from state-of-the-art technical analysis were coming in one after another. We've made some startling discoveries, digital investigator Parker spread out documents. This smartphone has 3 abnormalities not found in normal products. Parker continued explaining while pointing at diagrams. First, there's a high-performance GPS transmitter built in. It's a device capable of monitoring Michael's location 24 hours a day. Next, there's an ultra-small listening device. It has the capability to constantly record conversations and transmit them to a specific terminal. April's face turned pale. "You mean, our conversations?" "Yes," Parker continued calmly. "And finally, the most serious discovery. A device that generates special electromagnetic waves was incorporated. This frequency is known to adversely affect the human body, especially children's brains. It's highly likely to cause symptoms such as headaches, nausea, and dizziness." Anger welled up inside April as she glanced at Michael in the next room. Why would they do this? At that moment, a report came in from another interrogation room. Carol Brown's statement had begun. It was all part of a plan to create the perfect family. Carol's voice echoed coldly through the monitor. "I can't have children." "But Michael. I thought he could become my child." The interrogator continued pressing. "What about your relationship with James Watson?" James was cooperative. A thin smile appeared on Carol's lips. "I suggested a promotion, and he was attracted to my youth. His IT knowledge was essential to the plan." In another room, James was also being interrogated. Initially maintaining his denial, he finally broke down in the face of overwhelming evidence. "Carol planned everything," James's voice trembled. I just helped her." "Yes, I helped modify the smartphone. But I never meant to hurt Michael." "That's sophistry," the interrogator cut him off. "You must have noticed the changes in your son's condition. Yet you continued using the device." The investigation proceeded over a week. Digital forensics analysis revealed one horrifying fact after another. The devices planted in the smartphone had placed Michael under complete surveillance. The GPS signals were encrypted and sent to Carol's computer. All calls and ambient sounds were recorded. And the most malicious electromagnetic wave generator was intentionally used to deteriorate Michael's health, staged to demonstrate the mother's lack of parenting ability. "It was a perfect plan," District Attorney Green explained while reviewing documents. "Carol Brown's legal strategy is becoming clear. Use Michael's poor health to question April's parenting ability. Then petition the court for transfer of custody." "That woman." April's voice trembled. "She tried to kidnap my son." "Yes," Green nodded. "Moreover, in a legal way. With the consent of the husband, James Watson, she intended to follow seemingly legitimate custody transfer procedures." During the investigation, evidence of Carol and James's affair was also discovered one after another. Records of secret meetings, hotel receipts, and message exchanges discussing future plans. Everything told a story of obsessive attachment. "We proceeded carefully with preparations," Carol spoke matter-of-factly in the interrogation room. "We intended to make it appear that April couldn't properly care for Michael, whose health was deteriorating due to the device's effects. Combined with James's testimony, custody would have quickly transferred to me. April felt deep sadness at her husband's betrayal, who had promised to pay $3,000 monthly in child support. The unbelievable act of a man trying to trade his beloved son for money. But the plan was perfect. Carol's voice took on a hint of madness. Why did Michael notice? He shouldn't have been able to find that device. James, did you? In the corner of the interrogation room, James hung his head. The end of a man who, as an elite IT company employee, had betrayed his wife and child and put his son in danger. His social credit and brilliant career were now over. A week later, the district attorney's office formally announced the indictment. Multiple felony charges against James Watson and Carol Brown: child abuse, invasion of privacy through surveillance devices, bodily injury through harmful electromagnetic waves, attempted kidnapping. In court, vast evidence was presented. Data extracted from the smartphone, surveillance records, email exchanges. And most decisively, medical data recording the changes in Michael's condition. The defendant's actions, the judge solemnly stated, are extremely malicious crimes that severely damaged a child's physical and mental well-being and destroyed domestic peace. The sentences were harsh. James received 4 years in prison, Carol 3 years. Additionally, they were ordered to pay $500,000 in damages to April. The court granted April sole custody of Michael. The verdict stated, her maternal love and sense of responsibility were demonstrated admirably in the face of a crisis. As she left the courthouse, April let out a deep sigh. It was over. However, this was also a new beginning. Healing Michael's emotional wounds and building a new life, that was her most important mission as a mother. 1 year later, April and Michael were living in a new house in the Lake Forest district of Chicago's suburbs. A white fence enclosed the spacious yard where colorful tulips bloomed. In the backyard, they had set up a small laboratory where Michael could safely continue his scientific pursuits. April had been promoted at her real estate company and was breaking monthly sales records as a senior agent. Her strength and integrity in overcoming adversity had earned enormous trust from wealthy clients. With increasing referrals from new business contacts, her annual income had nearly doubled from the previous year. The St. Joseph's Church community warmly welcomed the mother and son. After Sunday services, Sister Mary would serve her special apple pie at tea gatherings, and fellowship with the congregation helped heal their hearts. "Mom, look." Michael held up his science award certificate. He had won first prize at St. Joseph Elementary School's science fair. His research topic was the effects of electromagnetic waves on the human body. He had transformed his painful experience into scientific inquiry. "This is thanks to you, Mom. Because you protected me." April embraced her son. The anxious expression of the past was gone, and Michael's eyes now sparkled with curiosity and hope. She felt maternal joy watching him enthusiastically conduct experiments with his new school friends. In the after-school science club, Michael had grown to become a leader who guided younger students. Meanwhile, James continued serving his sentence in the state prison. Permanent banishment from the IT industry, loss of social standing, and massive compensation payments. His ambition had ironically destroyed his own life. With no visitors, his time in solitary confinement only made him realize the value of the family he had lost. Carol had become mentally ill and was receiving treatment in the prison infirmary. Even her wealthy family had abandoned her, and her infertility grief and twisted obsession had led to irreparable consequences. Her once perfect appearance was gone, and under the influence of strong psychotropic drugs, even her memories became fragmented. "God is watching over us," April prayed while looking up at the light streaming through the church's stained glass windows. The pastor and church community supported them in every aspect of their new life. At Christmas, church members gathered for a carol concert where Michael sang hymns as part of the junior choir. On weekends, mother and son enjoyed picnics at the local Central Park. While Michael was absorbed in his new science books, April basked in the gentle spring sunshine. Occasionally, her son would enthusiastically tell her about scientific discoveries. His voice no longer carried any anxiety. Children from the neighborhood would gather around Michael, and a science experiment club would spontaneously form in the park. "Mom," Michael asked quietly one day, "can you forgive Dad?" April gently stroked her son's head. "Time will tell. But love is enough for us. Just having you makes Mom happy." At dusk, mother and son were gazing at stars from their small laboratory in the backyard. Michael enthusiastically explained about celestial bodies while peering through his new telescope. April proudly watched her son's deep knowledge and pure spirit of inquiry. Neighbors found an ideal parent-child relationship in the sight of the mother taking notes while nodding at her son's explanations. A new life built by two people who had overcome a dark past. It was a bright future guided by maternal love. And they knew that as long as they could believe in and support each other, that love would continue forever, no matter what trials awaited them. Looking at the flowers blooming in the backyard, April smiled secretly. Life sometimes takes unexpected turns. But everything has meaning. As a mother and as a woman, she had now found true happiness.